Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. As part of your comprehensive analysis, today we'll be discussing 6 very important articles out of the Hindu newspaper. Good morning to all of you. Let's begin our session first by discussing the initiatives which are back for your preparation for 2024. From daily quiz to explain to big news and economy essentials. Very soon we'll be uploading the first video with regards to that. And also we have our free 3 mock tests, first 3 mock tests for which you can register in the link in the given description below. And thereafter we also have a very important workshop by Anubhav sir which talks about the syllabus, book list, preparation strategy for UPSC CSE, and again the registration link has been given in the description. Before we move on to the 6 topics we are going to cover, very important announcement, I made it yesterday also, today again, that if the UPSC aspirant needs one-to-one counseling when it comes to any questions related to UPSC, how to move forward, syllabus or anything, these are generic sessions, that is one-to-one counseling. You can use the Google form which is given in the description to fill your basic details, and we will be happy to arrange a one-to-one counseling with a counselor who can tell you how to move forward. This can be important generally for your preparation because sometimes guidance is what is lacking generally. You have all the knowledge but you don't know where to put that. So I hope that you will use the Google form effectively and fill it up so that your one-to-one counseling session can be arranged as quickly as possible. With this, let's talk about the newspaper. 6 articles. The editorial mostly had irrelevant or non-UPSC type editorials. So we have one text and context which is post office bill. Again a controversial one, we'll discuss the sections which are there. Then the science section, you will not find it in every newspaper, only in the Delhi edition. Page number Roman 2 which is attached to the newspaper itself. Talks about COVID-19, something quite important, a word which has come into vogue again. We need to talk about that again. Thereafter, 4 very simple, straightforward things, from the Bangalore airport getting a recognition to the French and Indian defense deals going forward, to a critically endangered animal being spotted again, and something which we discussed yesterday itself, which is parliamentary security and the government taking a call with regards to it. So, with this, let's enter our first discussion. As always, basic idea, then we'll go into the nitty-gritty, and then we'll conclude by summarizing everything as we move forward. So the first one is the Post Office Bill 2023. Now, as I told you, the theme for this parliament session was so as to remove most of the old bills, the old colonial imprinted bills, and this one also tries to do that when it removes the Indian Post Office Act of 1898. Now, before we go into the nitty-gritty, there are 2 sections, section 9 and 10, which are quite problematic or has created a lot of controversy. The fact remains that as much as we discussed the Telegraph Act yesterday and the Indian Penal Code, the Indian Evidence Act and the CRPC Act itself, the fact is all of these were produced between this period between 1860 to 1900, and the purpose of them were colonial exploitation and proper colonial origin in that regard. Now, the Indian Postal Act or India Post Act, which was the 1898 Act, this one had a lot of provisions which were quite geared towards the British. So, when we talk about this act generally, looking at its origin in 1898, that this is the time in which nationalism was rising and revolutionary activities. The first revolutionary activity, 1897, the Chapekar brothers had already assassinated Rand, and therefore the act was produced in a context in which revolutionary activities were rising, and over and above that, the nationalism, the Indian National Congress was becoming more and more popular at this point of time. So the INC was becoming popular, revolutionary activities were becoming more and more common, and there will be a flurry of revolutionary activities after this in 1907, in 1908, in 1909, then the Ghadar movement itself. The 1897 Rand assassination meant that this act itself had a lot of provisions which were based on, for example, not sending explosives through the postal system itself, or had a certain contrabanded things which cannot be gone, or drugs cannot be sent. All the provisions which you would see would show you a certain idea wherein it seemed that it was actually produced by colonial power. And therefore, they wanted to remove the colonial imprint, and the powers of the DG, which is the Director General of Postals, and along with that also the power of the center has been relaxed and strengthened at the same point of time. And there are two sections which basically are nothing but an extension of three sections of the old act, are quite dangerous in that sense. So the first thing is that it tries to repeal. The 2023 Act which we are talking about tries to repeal the Act itself, and therefore bring in a new fresh air into the Act, bringing in the digital age itself. So that was quite important. Second, which is more interesting, is that previously it used to be the exclusive right of the center to send any form of postage. And the post office has the exclusive right to give postage stamps. Center had the exclusive right to always regulate any form of postage, which was then undercut by courier services coming through, and they're talking about letters and documents rather than using the word post itself. And now that exclusive privilege has been not mentioned about and has been relaxed in that sense. So the exclusive privilege of the center to control postage and have the control over the postage system has been done away with. As it is, we have multiple courier services today. Now, the third one is that the DG, the Director General, has been given the right to regulate and basically decide anything when it comes to the postal system itself. And today the postal system has gone just from being post to service delivery to now finance also. We have India Post ATMs also. They are holding a lot of money of the people also. It has a lot of different schemes, from the Kisan Vikas Patra to different bonds which they give, which give you good return, and in a way it is a secure investment, tax free also in certain cases. The fact is, these things have been in a way kept the way they are. Exclusive privilege of the center has been removed, tries to repeal it. Now come the two very problematic sections. This is section number 9 and this is section 10. Section 10. And basically section 9 is a reiteration of section 15, 19, 25 and 26 of the 1898 Act. So it is not something new, but it has been made more defined in this perspective. Now what does section 9 say? And I will read it out to you and then we'll try to interpret it. It says that the Post Office Bill 2023 allows interception of articles transmitted via post on grounds such as security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, emergency, public safety, contravention of the provisions of the bill or any other laws. And the officer in charge appointed by the union government is empowered to intercept, open, detain any article in postage on the aforementioned grounds, and such an item can be disposed of by the government in any deemed manner appropriate to them. The union government, by notification, can also empower any office of the postal system to deliver a postage article suspended containing any of these items to a specified authority. Now, this is a very dangerous section if you look at it through the perspective of what the Supreme Court has argued, the fundamental right to now privacy, and this is a section wherein you bring in national security. Now, it's not the first time that this interception clause has been introduced. There's a history to it which I will discuss with you. Previously, it was never passed and it was then withdrawn back by the government itself. This is a very interesting section because it says that the government now has the right. So if I am sending from point A to B something, government has the right to now intercept it if it believes it has something related to national security, something called, if during national emergency, if it has some data which may be not good for our neighboring states or which are allies to us, and therefore that article can be intercepted. So the government can intercept that article without telling you. And this is a very important point. The critics of this law are saying that the government should have had the provision that if the article gets intercepted, you should be notified that it has been intercepted and you should open it in front of the government, or you should at least know that it got intercepted or not. You are sending this article from point A to point B, and in between the government can anywhere after suspicion can intercept it, and the postal office can nominate a person to intercept it and send it to the specified authority. And if they find something which is maybe questionable, they can dispose it off for you also, wherein they can either discard it, destroy it, or keep it with them. Now this is in a way in contravention to what the Supreme Court says when it comes to right to privacy, and when it comes to Article 19, 21, and generally the interpretations, the liberal interpretations of Article 21. Herein, you are not getting notified, you are not getting to know what is happening, and interception is autonomous to the whole process itself. So the state has the right to intercept, detain that product or that commodity, that information, and then dispose it off also. Now the point is, none of these things have been defined in the bill itself, which is what does friendly relations with foreign states mean? What does public order mean? What does emergency, be it 352, 350, what type of emergency? Then what is public safety? What is the definition of these things have not been given in the bill itself. Further, when we talk about interception, open and detain, when we talk about postal articles being detained by the post office itself, you can be on a certain list. Any item you send could be intercepted and then sent to the person forward. This is in itself a problem, because maybe you are sending certain information which is harmless, but it could be intercepted and then changed into something else. Though the state would not do it, but when it comes to political parties, when it comes to the state, this is too much power. This is too much power, wherein India Post can do anything with your package and you will never get to know. So the section 9 is the first major red flag here. Second is section 10, which basically removes all liability. The bill exempts the post office from any liability pertaining to its services. Meaning, in all of this, maybe you were sending a very, very important article which was very precious to you. It was a memory of somebody. It was, for example, a food item which was a prasad or something. In the process of opening, it got destroyed. And now the person who gets it, either that thing is spoiled or has been destroyed. Then the post office is not liable to anything. The liability of the services, which is no officer shall incur any liability unless the officer has acted fraudulently or willfully caused loss, delay or misdelivery. And herein the willful concept is again vague. So when we talk about this act, this is not the first time they've tried to introduce this section. Previously also, the Law Commission, the 30th report had argued that the original bill had one word which is emergency, which was not properly defined. That was by design by the British to make it as open as possible. But the provision to intercept in the India Post Office Amendment Bill in 1986, there was an attempt to do it. And this said the same thing: intercept, detain postal articles for public safety, tranquility, sovereignty, integrity, security of state, friendly relations, public order, the concept of any offense or public emergency. However, what happened is that this bill was passed by both the Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha, but the President Jail Singh actually just sat on this bill. The President has this power. He neither gave assent, neither returned the bill, and later it was withdrawn by the Vajpayee government in 2002 itself. So it's not the first time they've tried to do it, and the simple point is this has now gone through and now become a bill itself. Now, this is again an ongoing concept. We have to see where it goes. How does this, it will be taken to the Supreme Court. How does it stand the test of time in that sense? But let's try to summarize what this bill is. Now, obviously, the 1898 bill was colonial in origin and was very specific to curb nationalism. So that obviously needed to be repealed. That is totally clear. When it comes to repealment, when it comes to giving up the exclusive privilege, when it comes to the DG's power to regulate, all of that is all okay. But the problem comes when we talk about Section 9 and Section 10. Section 9 very simply says that the government can intercept and detain anything which you are sending if it is on specific grounds, and the government has the right to intercept it at any point, and it can authorize the India Post itself to intercept it at any point of time. Now, this could lead to certain delays. Maybe nothing was found. So this could lead to problematic services. So what Section 10 does is it takes away the liability. It says that if the person has not willfully done it, which obviously will not be defined under this section itself, then he is not liable, no liability towards any delay or misdelivery in that regard. In that sense, both Section 9 and 10 will be taken to the court. Most probably constitutional validity of something like this will be checked. We have to see if the Supreme Court will uphold this with regards to right to privacy, wherein a package which has been marked by A to B has the right to privacy. You cannot randomly open it and then seal it back and send it back. So the problem is there is no notification to the person concerned. There is no written notification. There has to be no written order itself wherein this will be intercepted. A government officer just has to say that give me this post, we need to check it. They can check it, send it back. Therein, this is an infringement of your right to privacy, and over and above that, this is basically a surveillance state. So these two sections are nothing but Article 15, 25, 26 and 19 of the old Act itself. So in a way, the problematic provisions of the old Act have been just changed with the new context. And as I told you, it's not the first attempt. So let's see what happens to this bill. But generally, this was a discussion which the Hindu newspaper wanted to do. And I've given you the backstory and general understanding in that regard. With this, we move to the second article, which is something unfortunately very familiar to us, which is COVID-19. So we know that there's one major variant, JN1, which is now spreading like wildfire throughout the southern states and in North India also. And now the WHO has given this variant of COVID-19. We know that we knew about alpha, beta, gamma. We knew about the last major problematic, which is the Omicron one. JN1 has now become a variant of interest. And this is where the word variant of interest becomes important. VOI and VOC. Variant of interest and variant of concern. These two are gradational. This is the first stage, this is the second stage. And now JN1 has become the variant of interest, wherein variant of interest means that the original virus, and viruses do this, which is that they keep on evolving. But if there is certain evolution which increases the transmission, viral load, antibody evasion and susceptibility, or how it impacts our immune system, it becomes a VOI. And the genetic changes in COVID-19 are so quick that we already have close to 25 to 30 different variants. But this has now become a variant of interest. Because what we are seeing is that JN1 is very transmissible, which is it transmits very quickly. And that is very dangerous because what WHO has pointed out, with the northern hemisphere having what is the winters, and with winters having generally the flu season, the fact is respiratory infections may go up, and this could be a problem because then distinguishing between common cold and COVID-19, how we saw previously, will become very, very difficult. And JN1, so variant of interest means when there is, this can be asked in the examination, I have a mains question for this, the concept of genetic changes in a bacteria or even a virus, which leads to its basic ideas being changed, wherein how you detect it, how it is transmitted, what is the viral load, how it evades your antibodies, how it impacts your, or how it is impacting the immune system, or it is impacted by the immune system. All these things make it a variant of interest. And the WHO has said that the northern hemisphere is now in a major risk factor zone, wherein with cold there will be common cold and standard forms of respiratory diseases, and therein comes JN1 at the wrong time in that sense. So I would also encourage all of you who are watching this video to now wear masks as much as possible. There is already an advisory in Kerala, Karnataka and in Tamil Nadu for old people to wear masks, but we have to now go back to that COVID positive behavior, because this is not a joke. And we already know how this ends and where this goes. So we already had the first case in Kerala. Thereafter, Kerala, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, Karnataka, we've seen COVID positivity rates going up, close to 2,000 cases in the whole southern sector itself. And we have now a debate that we've already taken. I hope you have taken the first and the second shot with either Covishield or Covaxin. But now, do we need an additional shot or not? Additional dose of the vaccine? It's a good coverage, but is a additional COVID-19 vaccine shot needed for JN1? Do we need to change our vaccine? Is something which is developing, and that will change if JN1 was to progress from VOI to VOC, which is when it becomes a variant of concern. It may be that we have to take very quick steps. So this is something where we already have a lot of experience. A lot of people have already died because of this, and we have to learn from our mistakes. So the two articles we discussed, as I told you, the newspaper happens Friday, Saturday, Sunday, newspapers like this only. The editorials were not that relevant for UPSC preparation, and irrelevant things is not what we teach. The fact is, the two articles we discussed, one was the Post Office Bill 2023. I'm summarizing for you. In this, DG's power, center's privilege and repealment is something. But 9 and 10, these two sections you will see in every newspaper soon. Section 9 and 10 are questionable. The Supreme Court has to check the constitutionality of something like this, wherein interception without notification and disposal is also allowed by the state without notification to the sender, right to privacy, Article 19 and 21. And thereafter, what we discussed further, the second article we discussed was related to the aspect of COVID-19. Here I have specifically taken it for two reasons: VOC, VOI, variant of interest, variant of concern. Variant of interest means that when the virus starts to change genetically so much that it can impact the transmission, the way it impacts our body, the way it impacts or is impacted by medicine, how it is detected and how it can spread, then we call it a variant of interest. JN1 is the one which has now become equally serious as Omicron. Omicron did spread, but the transmission rate was lower. This has actually spread like wildfire in the southern sector, and therefore we need to do it. The timing also is problematic because it is now impacting or coming during the winter season. In winter season, we already have a higher load of common cold and basic viral infections, and this may be a problematic aspect. The debate is that before it becomes a variant of concern where the transmission rate is so high that the state has to do something about it, the question is, do we need to give any additional vaccines itself, or we need to change our vaccine? In that is the debate right now. We have to see. Now, mitigation with regards to COVID-19 is something you already know very well. From COVID positive behavior to wearing masks to using sanitizers to basically having social distancing, these things are very common. Now, I know that all this brings a lot of deja vu. It brings a lot of concern, how things were. We have finally come to normalcy. The state, the economy is now coming back to its own, and JN1 coming at this point of time is a concern. But we all have to contribute in our own way to make sure that JN1 remains only a VOI and not a VOC. So, this has to be spread to other people. You are a part of this nation, and you have to make sure wherever you are, you talk about JN1 as much as possible. So this article has two purposes. First, to make sure that we remain in this VOI zone only, and second, to know what is VOI and how do you mitigate it. Mitigation questions can come. I've given two questions, mains questions about this only. You will get a good idea how to tackle these type of questions generally. Thereafter, let's talk about the Prelims Bytes section. Prelims Bytes section, again, 4 very interesting articles. The first one is a UNESCO recognition. This is important for art and culture. And the Bangalore Airport Terminal 2 has been in the news already quite a lot. It has finally got recognition for its very interesting design, wherein it has won the UNESCO 2023 Prix Versailles, wherein Versailles, whatever you want to call it. This is a very interesting award which gives recognition to intelligent sustainability as a cultural driver, acknowledges innovation, creativity, reflection of local heritage, ecological efficiency, and values of social interaction. Herein comes the question that how the Terminal 2 has basically used its design to be extremely green. It uses renewable energy. It has a lot of plant-based filters, and over and above that, T2 in that sense has turned out to be a crowd puller when it comes to its design generally. And this recognition is important, coming from renowned fashion designers and the BAIL, the Bangalore International Airport Limited, which has both T1, T2, has got this recognition. This is very important because it recognizes how Indian ideas of green concept, from using bamboo to having very open designs, T2 in itself is a marvel, and that has now been recognized also. This was inaugurated in 2022. Thereafter, something which we again know about, India has asked for 26 more Rafale jets and 3 submarines. From France, we've already taken Rafale, but Rafale was for the Air Force. These are 26 M1s. M means marine, wherein we need it for our 2 aircraft carriers, Vikramaditya and Vikrant. We need what are called aircraft carrier variants of the Rafale. And we've also asked for 3 more Scorpene class conventional submarines. Diesel electric, they're called. Diesel engine to basically, when on the surface, diesel electric, diesel used to charge the batteries, and thereafter batteries used to further propel in the water itself once under the water itself. Now herein we've got the response from France, and the question is now the Defense Ministry has to decide what is the benchmark price at which we take it. This again is problematic because this has been an ongoing concept where Rafale, what cost and what is the deal, was controversial previously also. But this is India trying to increase its nuclear arsenal and its arsenal when it comes to deep waters, because these 26 Rafales are specifically for the aircraft carriers. That is quite important in that sense. Let us see, do these bids go forward and do we acquire more? Thereafter, a very, very important news for environment. This is something which can come in the examination very, very clearly, wherein the Namdapha flying squirrel, this is a critically endangered animal which is only found in Arunachal Pradesh, the Namdapha National Park. And for the past 42 years, we had 2 basic ideas. We had not spotted it for 42 years, past 42 years. So either they were getting mixed up with the dread giant flying squirrel, or we believed that it became extinct. But there is good news with regards to this, that finally, in the Namdapha Tiger Reserve, the larger national park itself in Arunachal Pradesh, we have spotted since 1981 for the first time the squirrel again. So this means that there is a certain population, it remains critically endangered and not extinct. we had a feeling that this is a very important keystone animal, very, very important animal for the ecosystem of this sector. Its resurfacing is a thing to rejoice generally and quite important for your preparation, because now this can come in the examination easily asking you, where is Namdapha? What is the status of the flying squirrel? IUCN critically endangered, and generally how the Namdapha Tiger Reserve has yielded something after a very long time. Thereafter, the last small topic is something which we were discussing yesterday itself, wherein the CISF has been approved by the Home Ministry as the one authority which will take care of the parliamentary security. The ITBP was taking care. Now, airports, government buildings and Delhi Metro already had CISF. The in-principle approval has been conveyed that CISF, both security and fire wing, will be now under the CISF. This is quite significant, needed, proactive step that way. Now, before we go to the mains question, three very simple things to be reminded to you. First, that remember there's a Google form for you for one-to-one counseling. If you need it for your preparation generally, please check the description box. Second, we discussed the postal bill, and this bill in itself has a lot of liberating aspects, but section 9, section 10 will be something which we'll be hearing a lot about, from interception, detaining for national security, friendly relationships, to no liability on the postal department. And we discussed JN1 COVID-19 variant, which is quite important that way, because it has now become a VOI, is moving towards VOC. We have to make sure that it remains a variant of interest only, not a concern like Omicron, and here COVID positive behavior is needed. Thereafter, we are trying to take more Rafales for our aircraft carrier. We have a quote for that. 3 more Scorpion class submarines are needed for our blue waters, or what is called a navy which is capable of the blue waters itself. Further, we have finally, very, very important moment, Namdapha flying squirrel has been spotted in Arunachal Pradesh, which is good because it still remains critically endangered but not extinct. And CISF will now take care of parliamentary security. And last but not the least, which is the Bangalore T2 has now got recognition from the UNESCO for its very innovative design generally. With this, let's look at the mains questions. First is, discuss the key changes in the Post Office Bill 2023. This is a very standard question. Here, key changes will be anybody who's not writing about section 9 and section 10 will basically be in a disadvantageous position, and you need to know what section 9 and 10 is and how it is related to the old act. Second is, what does WHO's variant of interest entail? Variant of interest entail meaning what does it mean? And how can we mitigate another COVID outbreak? This is something which is a very realistic question, because with VOI in the news, VOC in the news, JN1 in the news, I believe and I hope that it remains a VOI and not a VOC, and that is what should be the protocol we follow right now. So with this, I would like to end the session. Remember the Google form. Remember that we have a webinar for you, which is specifically the workshop for you for the syllabus and book list. And I hope that you're engaging with DQ and other initiatives which we have brought back for your preparation generally. Thank you. I will see you tomorrow with another set of issues. Thank you. Take care and bye-bye.